Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast. I am so pumped. Today I am meeting with the gorgeous Odessa Christiana. She is muse to creative entrepreneurs and founder of Rebel Unicorn. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. Welcome to the show, Odessa. Please kick us off and share a little bit about your story and why you're even here and what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited.
Yay! Thank you, Christy. Oh my God. I am so excited to just have this magical time with you and your listeners and your viewers. And hi.
So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm honored and I'm excited. You and I talked a little bit, but I just wanted to say congratulations again on your book.
Thank you so much.
And I wish you so much success with that. I know
I'm working on the second one that's going to be about relationships. The key relationship is the one with yourself, which of course is the topic of this season's podcast. So it all ties together. So give us a little bit about your story and how you started to come into more relationship with yourself.
Oh my gosh. How far back do I go?
As far back as you feel.
It's been a long, wild ride up until now. I sometimes have these conversations with my husband about looking back at our childhood or something. And he has times where he feels like being the little boy was just 10 minutes ago or last week. And it's so funny how we're all different, right? Because for me, my childhood feels like lifetimes ago.
I very much feel the same way. And I'm not sure if it's do I have a terrible memory or what the problem is? But I also think back to relationships that I had earlier on in my adult life. And I'm like, it feels like that happened to someone else.
Yeah, I know. It's is it because of the work that we do? Because we have experienced so much self-evolution that
we feel like someone else?
That we become someone else, probably multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is more we unbecame and became more of ourselves. That's probably more the accurate way of saying that. But yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I just had a birthday and I posted a couple pictures of, one of me as a baby and then one of me when I was, 5 or 6 years old. I was standing on the porch and I had this little magic wand that I was holding. And I was looking at that picture and I was just, feeling the little Odessa inside of me. And which I do often now, it's I love that whole inner child, letting her play. And I'm very much childlike in a lot of ways. And then I'm also 1,000 years old in a lot of ways.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? Happy medium. And I was looking at that picture of me and it brought back some memories, but it was also was that really my life? It could have almost been a show I was watching a long time ago, just to give you you asked for a little bit of background. So I'll see if I can put this in a nutshell or something, because when I'm teaching or training or maybe in an in-person group, just a couple weeks ago, I was sitting in a Soul Sister circle, which was just amazing. And a friend coach of mine was doing an in-person life visioning workshop. And it was so beautiful. And I wanted to share my vision. And these days, my visions are really crazy big and probably just out of touch and scary to a lot of people, and especially people that aren't maybe in our groups and things that we participate in, right? But I guess to put that in another way. I love to talk about big money kind of dreams now. It's like, I really love that. And I like to also go back to my childhood and let people know that I was not raised with any money. Like, we had an apple tree. We had an amazing Gravenstein apple tree. And my mom was a pro at like picking those apples every season and making applesauce and canning that. And that is a lot of what we had to eat. We had applesauce, we had oatmeal. Maybe every month or so, my grandparents would come out and like bring bags of groceries. And that's when we might actually have like a meatloaf or a stew or something like that. But other than that, it's like my parents, they're both here today. They're amazing, artistic people. But back then, they were young hippies and they just didn't know what the fuck to do with this young, girl that was just filled with imagination and delight. And
yeah, like,
who is this? Who is this? So I didn't have much growing up. I had a lot in some senses when I look back. And if you ask me today, would I change anything? That's a big question, but I have to say no, because then I wouldn't be who I am today.
I've said the exact same thing, and I have gone through some shitty things for sure. But would I change them when I go back? Would I do things differently? I don't think so, because I could not have the wisdom and understanding of things and of myself, most importantly, that I have now, had I not gone through all of those things. And I didn't couple divorces and a couple of heartbreaks and some kind of, I did the things that I was supposed to do and should do because other people wanted me to, which I know we're going to kind of dive into that as well. But, I did a lot of stuff that I thought I was supposed to do. And I didn't do the things that I felt in my heart and soul were the things for me to do. I was very focused on, doing what other people wanted and expected of me. And I think that's actually kind of the way we were raised. That's kind of the generation. It was kind of just like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Check the boxes, right? Yeah. So that little girl that was just so filled with imagination and wonder and delight with her magic wand, she went through her parents divorcing, moving out of, my home that my parents had built when I was young, and, moving into more of a city kind of life and just mixing with other kids. That was a big move in about the 5th grade for me. So just starting to all of a sudden feel my uniqueness, my different kind of being, I've always had a different name, obviously, Odessa, took me a long time just to grow into that. And then, I've always been petite. Maybe it was the lack of food. I don't know. Maybe I would be 6 feet tall if we had more than applesauce and oatmeal. I don't know.
Well, we always had enough to eat, and I am still short too. So short night. I don't know.
But I just always felt very different. Like I never really learned how to play sports. And so that was never a thing for me. And a lot of the kids I went to school with did. And I just always kind of felt different than the other kids, and kind of coming through life. And, by the time I was getting into being a teenager, I started kind of running with a not so great crowd. I guess I went from like kind of being that good, sweet girl, but that just felt like a little bit like she didn't fit into, for whatever reason, that was like an easy way to fit in, like get my black leather jacket and smoke cigarettes and, like, well, maybe I'll just be the cool kid or the one that is a little bit badass or domineering or something, or just kind of like change that identity a little bit. And then that got me into high school with just the slew of things that I ended up getting myself into around that time, the parties on the weekends and the doing all kinds of drugs during my teens. And, it's like, thank you to my angels and spirit guides and all of this. It's like, I have had something out there taking care of me and watching my ass. There were some times where I was like, whoa, I think back and I'm like,
well, we are all very grateful that they were watching over you as well, and that you could be here today to share your story. And I know it's going to make some impact.
Oh, I hope so. I do like to share. I like to share as much as things today, it can be hard looking back or embarrassing or whatever it is. But like we were saying, it brought us to where we are today. So, that lack of money, that severe lack of money became just more and more apparent to me going through my teen years, didn't have the money to buy the clothes. I'd have a friend that her mom gave her the Nordstrom card, every year to go school clothes shopping or around her birthday or whatever. And it was always like, oh, you get to just pick out whatever. And I'm like borrowing clothes from my girlfriend or my other girlfriend that were around the same size. And I'd hear people talk about money. Oh, they're rich or something, And so I really got that ingrained in my head. And so it became this thing for me where, oh my God, I want a life where I have all the money that I need. And of course, back then it just meant like maybe enough to have my own place, like a shitty apartment and a shitty car would be great, right?
Low bar at the beginning right there. Yeah.
And so I kind of came into my 20s with that sense of like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I didn't have anybody in my life that was a role model that could inspire me to go back to that child that was full of imagination, that was an artist. I practically came out with a pen in my hand. When I was 2 years old, my mom loves to tell the story of, I said, I always loved to draw. And I told her at 2 years old, I'm like, crayons are for babies. I want markers. Like I literally wanted markers, and I was not drawing on walls. I had, pads of drawing paper, and I would just draw and create all the time. But somehow that just all got kind of left behind by my 20s. And I just, started working like a series of just jobs. And then I got myself into the grocery business. I was going to college, but I got myself into the grocery business because I wanted to just take a summer to just make some money so I could buy my car and things like that I wanted. And so I just kind of got myself in your terminology, stuck.
Yeah.
I got myself really, really stuck in this life of a retail clerk. And not to say anything bad or negative about that. I mean, the retail clerks are definitely needed in this world. Absolutely. But when you are an entrepreneur at heart, when you're a creative person at heart, and then somehow you find yourself in this cage of a job that you have to punch a time clock and report to every day, and likely it's not really paying you the money that aligns with your big dreams, it's fucking hell.
Yeah, I think I've shared a few times on my show that I used to be a professional accountant. And so if I tell any people that, they're just like, what? That doesn't even make sense. And I'm sharing this not because I like to confuse people and feel like, but shock value, but also that I did that because I thought that's what I should do and I was good at doing. And I didn't know any better. I don't know any better. I didn't know any different. I didn't know myself enough to know what it was I did want to do. And so that seemed like a good way to make some money so I could buy a house and get married and have kids and buy a car and just be part of this whole system, this whole capitalist system that kind of makes us required to have a job to pay our bills, right? And it's so easy to get stuck in that box. But I was sick all the time. I was exhausted. Like I had the hardest time waking up in the morning to go to this job. Like I just, oh man, it was exhausting. but I really felt I loved teaching. I loved mentoring. So there was pieces of that for sure that I wouldn't go back and change, because that made me who I am now, and it helped me develop those skills that I apparently needed later on. So it
I
all
was
worked
going to
out.
say, hence why you are a wonderful coach today.
Yeah, it all kind of builds. And I, like you as well, I've always been sort of an entrepreneur. So I started my first business when I was 14 as a piano teacher. And so I've always kind of had that spirit as well. So I really relate to your story of being creative and then sort of like, I have to fit in this box for society, and kind of letting that go. And
Yeah.
then thank God we found it again. Right. Anyway, back to your story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this. It's amazing to find out the common ground that we do
Yeah.
have as uncommon people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, like to touch on something that clicked in my mind when you were sharing is we're not asked generally. I mean, maybe some people had the parents occasionally that would, you know, encourage them to go after their dreams. But I think a lot of us weren't like asked, hey, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
You can make a beautiful life for yourself. You can make the money you desire. You can do it all by following your dreams. Like, no, like my grandparents, who I loved dearly, sweetest people, but they were products of the Depression. And they were like, you go get a job and you work hard and you show up on time and you do all you can do and then some, and you like appreciate that paycheck and you spend it wisely. Like you buy what's on sale and you don't overspend, and like that's the kind of thing that was ingrained in my mom's mind. It's like there was a lot of scarcity mindset there too. So going to work and thinking, okay, this is just, at first when I was in the grocery business, like my first 6 months or so, I thought that I would go back to college. I took a little break from college. It was summertime and I worked, but then I got promoted quickly. And
they sucked you right in.
They sucked me right in. I went from being, just at the time they called them courtesy clerks that carried your groceries out, to all of a sudden I was working in the bakery and in the seafood department. And then all of a sudden I was offered my own seafood department. So at like 20 years old, I'm like a department manager and making the money that I thought would give me what I wanted. So this is like in 1991. Okay. So I went from making $3 an hour to 10 or 11 and like this. So that felt really good at the time. It's like, oh, I can buy my own place. I can pay for an apartment. I can pay for my car. I can go out and get drunk on the weekends, buy the fancy cocktails.
Yeah.
And then, maxing out a few credit cards to buy things for my place and all that later, all of a sudden I realized that it's like, oh shit, I hate this job. The people are mean. I feel I didn't know how to describe it back then, but I feel like my soul was just being sucked out. Like it was just, I was miserable. Like you were saying, like physically, I had lots of headaches and didn't even know how to label it back then, but I was not happy. And that went on for years. I allowed myself to be trapped in that, and I associated with people that didn't see past that. If I ever had a glimmer of like my big dream kind of thing and shared that with anybody in my vicinity, they would laugh their ass off at me.
Yeah. Way to just bring you back into reality here. Oh, artists don't make money. Oh, teachers aren't in it to make money. Like there's all these stories, right? That really just kind of keep us stuck in the narrative that we can't do what we really want to do. We just have to do whatever we have to do to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And thank God we're here to bust through that fucking mold.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
And show what's possible. Because I really think that if we're doing what lights our soul on fire, it works out, right? It is it is not in the mold currently, but we're going to prove how that's going to work.
Yes, definitely breaking the mold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of that was just fuel to my fire. And I see that today. Like, I went through years of pain and just suffering. And, there was sexual abuse in this job. And there was, just a lot of things happened in the 90s that probably wouldn't be tolerated today. Some of the people that I worked with back then would probably be in jail now if they said or did some of the stuff that they did, honestly. I've really had to heal myself from that, and it's always going to be a part of me. But I've taken all of this from my past, like all of this crap, and I've just I've just turned it. I've just turned it and churned it and just like done that inner work in the past few years and just created this life that I love, and also just fallen in love with myself.
Yeah. I think like self-love is the foundation, honestly, because if we can't learn how to love ourselves, we can't fully experience the breadth of love that's possible for us. Now, yes, I'm not saying you have to love yourself before other people will love you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you're not worthy of love unless you love yourself. Don't misinterpret my words here, folks. But
Right.
I am saying the more you love yourself, the more you will experience love.
Absolutely.
I really think the experience of love is actually in the giving, much less so than in the receiving. But the irony of the whole thing is the more you give, the more you receive back. And it comes back usually like tenfold. So while you experience much more in the giving, you just receive it back and it just is magnified.
It really, really is. I'm so happy that I came to this place of being today. I mean, I just, like I said, I didn't know, I didn't have labels for it for years, but I mean, I was really in this victim mindset. I was just so unhappy, and I would blame whatever outer sources for that. When things probably first started kind of turning the corner for me was around, let's see, 2000, around 99 or 2000, I guess right around my 30th birthday. I decided to put myself through art school. Somehow I cleared the other voices out of my head for a fucking minute.
Yeah.
Enough to go, I have a choice. I saw a little bit of light, and somehow I did it. It's like I applied to this art college in Seattle the time I was living in the Pacific Northwest. And for the next 2 years, I continued to work my job and go to school full time.
Yeah.
That was fucking hell too, but it was a different kind of hell.
Yeah. At least it was like hell with a purpose.
It was hell with a purpose. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's really when I started to, I guess, step into my power in a sense.
Yeah.
Still far from the awareness I have today, but I started to realize how I played a really active role in my life. And I could either sit back and be the victim and, oh, poor me. And, or I could go do something about it.
Yeah.
So I did. And I worked hard for all of that. And then when I graduated from school, I didn't want to, at that point, I was like, I'd had this job at the grocery chain for like 10 years already.
Yeah.
So, or more. So I was like, I don't want to just go have another job. So that's when my entrepreneurship kicked in.
Yeah.
And I started finding ways to spin my fashion design knowledge into my own business.
Yeah.
So that was a whole nother chapter, but there was so many steps in there that like led to becoming my best friend and just falling in love with myself and realizing that I could harness my passion and like start living with more of a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, it can get really tough. And I have been in that spot too, where I was definitely viewing myself as the victim. And by that, really what we mean is just that we feel hopeless and helpless to fix the situation. Not anything against people who are actually a victim. We're not talking about, pretending things didn't happen or anything like that. But taking control of the narrative, right? And putting yourself in the position where you can move forward victorious from whatever the hell has fucking happened to you. Because yes, bad things happen, but they don't make you a bad person. And the best way to really move towards the things that you want, the happiness, the peace, the joy, is to go through and come out the other side. And I really think that rewriting some of the stories that I had been telling to take the focus off of blaming, criticizing, excuses, fault finding, all of the bullshit. It literally was all focused on the problem. And it kept me in the situation with the problems, right? Instead of looking at how can I shift this? How can I flip it so that I can move forward in my power? And that's really kind of the catalyst. And I'm like, holy shit, this is me. This is me doing, oh God. Like, and that is very confronting, right? It's complicated to realize, oh boy, this is me. At the exact same time, it's empowering as hell, because guess who has the solution? Me too, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to go and we're going to move forward and we're going to rewrite the story. And that's essentially sort of, what I did to kind of free myself and start my self-love journey. My book talks about shutting down the spiral, because it's so easy when we're in these things. It's like a habit. You're not even thinking about it. You got the excuses and the blame and the complaining and the stories and the criticism and the judgment. They just flow without even you thinking about it, right? Because it just happens. And when it happens a few times, your neural pathways just build, and it just happens without you even realizing, on autopilot. And so my
Yep.
book is really designed to help people to stop the spiral, get out of the shitstorm of thinking and all that autopilot stuff, and actually be the conscious creator of their own experience, empowering them to take control of their own thoughts, because our thoughts create our reality, right? Our thoughts create our experience, all our beliefs and our perceptions. There's really no reality out there that is independent from our filtered version of them. And so taking control of that narrative really can shift things for you. And I know that that's something that you have learned along the way as well. So share with us a little bit about untethering.
Okay. I
Yeah.
know. What is this, like, live untethered, right?
Yep,
But
pretty much.
this kind of all came together um earlier this year. I get what I call downloads. We haven't talked a lot about this today, but
Yeah.
obviously, like, well, I guess obviously, I am connected with universe, spirit, divine, whatever you want to call it. Like, I am into that vibrational energy that is, right?
Yeah.
And I have aligned myself where I pull from that, like, on a daily basis. It's like, yeah. So earlier this year, like at the beginning of the year, I kind of had this download about Rebel Unicorn. And at the time, I was working with a business coach. So it started out kind of like, get your Facebook group and this and that. And it was called something else. And then I decided I wasn't going to work with her anymore, because I sat in a meditation one day and I just started really feeling like, Odessa, you have so many answers inside of you. You really just need to, because it's interesting. Working with a coach can be fantastic, but you also need to, like, be able to separate and, like, process your own thoughts and things, right?
Absolutely. And that honestly, just for a half a second, I want to say I think this is where the coaching industry is shifting and going into a realization that we're not going to be at our best if we go seeking all the answers from outside of us in any way, shape, or form. And this is we absolutely need mentors. We absolutely need people to, show up and provide a safe space and provide that community, because we're not meant to do it alone. But we're not meant to do it their way. We're meant to do it our way. And so I think the coaching is shifting into a space of, let me help you discover your way. Find out what's within you,
Yes.
because you have the answers. I don't proclaim to have any of the fucking answers to anything for anybody else aside from myself. I know what is for me. because I've sat with myself and I've given it a lot of thought and I've asked a lot of questions and gone within to hear the answers. But I don't have answers for everyone else. I don't have the one size fits all strategy or anything
And
like that.
nor should
There
you,
isn't
and
one.
nor does anyone. We don't have a
Right.
crystal ball for the other person,
Yeah.
you know. But the conversation that you and I have may inspire me. You know, I may be walking later today and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, something that you just planted a seed in my mind. So when you're working with someone that has done this inner work, that can hold you in this safe space and safe container and let you process, that's one of the reasons I like to call myself a muse. I kind of came up with that because, I mean, I'll say coach or I'll say mentor or whatever, but I feel like more of a muse because if you're with me, you know, we're going to be having these jam sessions together
Yeah.
where things just organically evolve and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we do better actually having a conversation to bring out those things because we sometimes can't see our own stuff. Right. And sometimes it really is helpful to have someone to bounce the ideas or to ask the questions or to, just throw ideas out there that you might not have thought about. And I know for sure for me, that has been the best growth has come from that sort of interaction with coaches and mentors versus any sort of like, here's a strategy, go and do it. Like that has basically always fallen flat for me.
yes, absolutely. So, I'm right there with
Yeah.
you. So, Rebel Unicorn was just kind of birthed as my brand as this thing because everything that I've shared with you so far today, it's like always being an entrepreneur, you know, being the artist, being unique. And I just started feeling like I wanted to have a place where I would encourage people more and more to just be their unique self and also be in this energetic container where there was all these other unique souls in there and we're like all supporting and uplifting each other and the
Yeah.
collective energy could be a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah.
So from that bubble of excitement and energy a few months ago I kind of had this download about live untethered. Like, what does that mean to me? What does an untethered version of Odessa look like? What does an untethered version of Christy look like? On and on. And then I got the idea for this program that I'm currently running,
Yeah.
which is becoming like my new signature program. I'm really excited about. It's an evolutionary course. So as I, download these different ideas and teachings and everything that come into my mind, there's conversations around all these different subjects. So
Yeah.
living untethered is something that anyone really needs to sit down and spend some time writing about for themselves. Like take that as a journal prompt. It's like, what does an untethered version of you look like? Not necessarily on the outside.
Yeah.
I could put on a ball gown today or a baseball cap and whatever, But if you want to do the outwardly, that's fine too. But it's like inside, like what does your life look like when you're living untethered?
What
And
is the experience that you want to create through that, right?
yeah, what is the experience? And really like in my first module, we talked about stripping off those layers, like decoding the old beliefs and reprogramming the new. You mentioned the neural pathways,
Yeah.
and you and I know from our work that we can recode ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to make the commitment. There's a lot of people out there that say they want to change or they want the change, but it's like going to the gym,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we all know what we should be doing. Again, I don't like the word should, but we know what the things are that make us feel good and get us towards those things. But doing them is a whole nother level, right? So that
Moving the needle.
integration, right? Actually stepping forward and taking action is a whole nother thing. And I think, there's two ways to look at experiencing change. And one is to change the outward situation, which a lot of people, oh my gosh, try very desperately to do that again and again and again. Or you can look at changing the beliefs that you have that are blocking you from having the experience you want. And that's actually typically a lot easier than trying to change all of the things that are outside of you. Instead, doing the work within creates all of the experiences that you want with a lot more ease.
The quickest way to change your world is to change yourself.
Yep.
Like I can sit there and look at my husband doing whatever he's doing and go, oh, I could just try to wish him into doing something else, which I used to do. It's like I've been with this guy for many, many years, and I was not always a happy person in that relationship. That's another thing that I chose to change. And now it's like he's gonna do him. I give him love. It's like caring for a beautiful plant or something, right? You water it, you feed it, you fertilize it, you talk to it, whatever. It's like I will nurture that, but then I'm also going to go and take care of me.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how when we really take care of ourselves and do the inner work and find things that make us happy and just do them, it's like all of a sudden the world just starts opening up.
Yeah.
Everyone starts treating us different when we walk a certain way. We have a magnetic glow around us. We have, it's like the smile goes deeper than just being on our face. It's like our hearts are smiling.
Yeah, there's a whole energetic transmission, if you will. Like the energy is felt. Like, you walk into a room and you can just feel someone's vibe, whether it's good or bad.
Oh yeah.
And I think we all have this capacity, although many people have maybe turned it down or ignored it or don't believe in themselves enough to trust it. But I think that we can all feel that vibe in a room, right? We've all walked into a room where we're like, oh my gosh, it's very clear that the couple in this room just had a massive fight and everything's awkward as fuck, right? We've all experienced something like that. But we can also work on our energy. And you're right, that creates this like magnetic pull, this magnetic draw that brings those things to us with much more ease. And when we're not focused on the problems, we can see so many more possibilities and opportunities that now exist that we literally couldn't see previously because our brain filter was not set to see them. And so by doing that inner work, right, we're shifting our perception, we're shifting our brain filter to look for the creative solutions. We're looking for the ways to be uniquely ourselves and to express that and to call in the people who are for us. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, because I have spent, oh my gosh, most of my adult life trying to be whoever I needed to be to make people like me. If I'm really brutally honest, I spent a lot of time doing that and people pleasing. And now I just really completely see that from a completely different perspective.
Same.
And you know what? Like, I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like people actually saw me for me. And the reason was that they didn't see me because I wasn't showing them myself. I was showing them who I fucking thought they wanted to see. And so many people go around doing this and they're putting on the masks, they're fitting into the boxes, they're doing all the things they think they should do, and they don't feel fucking seen, right? They're like, where are the people who are for me? Everybody seems to be against me and nothing seems to really be working out. The first step is being you and fully owning that like a fucking rebel, right? And it does feel rebellious because not everybody is doing this. A lot of people are kind of just doing the people pleasing and doing what they're supposed to do and, carrying on this good girl persona or whatever else, fitting inside all the boxes. But the truth is, if you really want that deep, unconditional love and acceptance that your soul is craving, you got to put yourself out there. You got to be. You got to be you. You got to be authentically you. And that is how you can actually be seen, right? Otherwise, you're not actually truly being seen for who you are.
It feels a little scary.
It sure does.
But what if you don't? I mean, I've gotten to the point where, and I have been here for a while, and it just gets more and more this way. It's like, what's more scary to me is if I don't.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, what's going to happen to my dream? So I show up every day. I put myself out there, and it's like, yeah, you
And the
know?
more real I have been, the more accepted I have felt, even though it can be really scary, like you said. And it's only scary because it's unfamiliar and it's in this like sort of uncertain zone and you're not totally sure how it's going to be received. And because, yeah, someone who's in your current circle, your familiar circle, yeah, they might not like that, you being you, right?
Oh, no, they probably won't.
Yeah.
But
And so
that's
it's scary because you may have some friends fall away. You are definitely going to have some people ask you who you think you are to be so happy. How dare you, right?
I know. Oh, the
Ah,
audacity of you.
the audacity of me to be such a happiness hussy and telling people they
I
too
love
can have happiness. How dare I? But I
that.
won't stop. It's totally okay wherever you're at on your journey. If you're like, I don't really believe that's possible for me. I see you and I love you and I want to shower you with love and tell you, fuck yes, it is for you because it is for everybody. Everybody is worthy of
Absolutely.
having all of their dreams come true, and you're not the exception. No matter what has happened in your life, you are not the exception to this rule.
I know your listeners that we're talking to right now, obviously, are at all different stages. And some may be thinking, like, oh, I couldn't be that bold, or, I have this or this going on in my life. And, they might be in a situation or a partnership that's really, really unhealthy and scary. So I wouldn't want them to take our words out of context.
Yeah.
But, there are definitely steps I think that anybody can do to get themselves into this place of more self-love and self-awareness. And then from there, going on to live a life more filled with purpose and passion. And like I like to say, living untethered, right?
And I think too, if you're in that situation, and you're thinking, I don't think I could be that bold. We're not asking anybody else to be bold like anybody else. We're just
Hmm.
asking you to lean into who you are and to strip away the stories and the beliefs just temporarily to figure out who you truly are underneath all of that, without the world telling you what you ought to do, without the expectations that you've placed on yourself and all the shoulds and all the, assumptions and judgments that you're putting on yourself. We're just asking you to strip that away and just be a little bit more you. That's all, right?
The first step of bold might just be looking in the mirror,
It might be.
having a heart to heart with that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Odessa, tell us a little bit more about the anything that you've got going on that you'd like to share with our listeners, and as well where they will best be able to find you.
Okay, this is exciting. So, along the lines of Rebel Unicorn, I have started to create this beautiful line of merchandise.
Ah,
Um, I just brought this with me today just to show this is one of
love
my journals. This is like the first copy, the first edition. I don't know if you can see that, but it says, "There is no wrong way to be yourself."
Yes, see, exactly. That's a perfect compliment to what we were just talking about. And
Right?
that artwork is gorgeous.
So there's a lot more where that came from. So rebelunicorn.life is my newer website. And that's my hub of kind of everything I have going on through that site. You can find, um, me and what I do, and my free group, Rebel Unicorn, and my coaching and my products and kind of everything. Um, and I'm just excited about bringing more of that to the world, and maybe doing some live and in-person experiences, with the focus on helping, especially the creative entrepreneurs. That's like where my passion and purpose, just I love empowering these people.
Fantastic. We will have all of those details in the show notes so that people can find you. And I would love to wrap up this absolutely phenomenal episode with one last question for you. And I would love for you to share some practical tip that our listeners can take with them out of this episode that they can implement quickly and easily in order to boost their relationship with self or their self-love.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
Make a little date with yourself.
Hmm.
And I realize that some people out there might have, little children, or, a lot of other things that need their attention, right? But even if it's 15, 20 minutes or something like that, that you can just get some quiet time to yourself, whether you normally like to just be alone or not, it's like, it's vital to your personal growth to get in a position with yourself where you can start to clear those other voices out of your head and just have a real conversation with yourself about who you are. In fact, I would just give them that. I would give them that piece of homework as far as my question around what would an untethered version of you look like? How would you be walking? How would you be living? How would you be acting? If you don't already have an active journaling practice, I'm a big advocate of journaling. That's really helped me to tap into my sense of being and just really empower myself. But yeah, that would be a big one for me. Just get a journal, grab a piece of paper, the back of a grocery sack, whatever.
Yeah.
and spend a little bit of time alone. And if journaling just doesn't turn you on, like I love actually putting the pen to paper. There's something in that I feel like I receive this flow when I get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't like really feel good, then use the voice audio app on your phone.
You could record yourself talking to yourself. That would also be an option for some people who just prefer that way.
And you know what? The first time I did it, now I have like over 400 voice audios on my phone. I do it all the time and I freaking love it. And I jabber on for like 45 minutes to myself sometimes. We have really, really inspiring conversations. But, it's going to feel kind of weird if you're not used to it. Yep. And remember, it's just you that you're talking to. So, you can actually just start it off with, and this goes for journaling or voice audioing. You can say, this feels really weird. I'm uncomfortable. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Say,
there's no right or wrong way to do this exercise. Just let flow through whatever is coming up. And if it's like, oh my gosh, this is the dumbest exercise I've ever done, and that's where you're starting, that's okay too.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way to be yourself.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah. Just be yourself. Just sit with yourself and learn yourself a little bit more, right?
Yeah. So make a little date. If you can make it longer, whether you like to take a nice bath or a walk or actually take yourself out for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or something. Yeah. I'm an advocate of those things.
Well, treat yourself, right? You are worth it. You are worthy of having that little break in your day and having some special treatment just for you.
Just for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation.
Oh my gosh,
I'm so grateful to have shared the space with you, and I am really excited to see what more you are going to create with Rebel Unicorn and all of this goodness. And I'm hoping that the listeners found this incredibly valuable and that they take this little bit and sit with themselves, discover a little bit more about what it means to be you.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
Thank you so much for being here. Mwah, we love you. Let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yes. Are you ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself? My book, Unstuck, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down the overthinking and overwhelm that are keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain how your brain works and why it may not be helping you to accomplish your goals right now, and how to change that. So if you haven't had a chance yet, head on over to my website at gtfu.ca and figure out how you can get the fuck unstuck starting right now. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.